Coach Jen,
Hi, how are you? My camera,
what was
all
that?
I said my camera is all messed up for some reason. There we go.
It's the legend, Coach Jen.
No, I don't know about that.
How's your day today?
Good. I'm just trying to figure out the camera here. It's been good, just busy. We actually had the day off today, which is kind of nice. So
Is Tuesdays normally your days off?
no Sundays, Saturdays right now. But just we scrimmaged on Friday and then we opted to scrimmage again on Monday. So um, rather than trying to overburden them with jumping and exhaust them before we even have an opportunity to compete, we decided it was probably best to give them the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Coach Jen, you're the volleyball coach here at Clarion University. So, when did you first start playing volleyball?
Oh geez. Like fifth grade, I think. Funny story actually. I got cut. I think fourth or fifth grade I got cut because I couldn't serve overhand. Um, yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, great. And I think that that became actually one of my better skills moving on. I think just kind of out of spite. But yeah, so yeah, really early on, I kind of fell in love with the sport, and I've had some really unbelievable coaches that have allowed me to, I think, just stay connected to the sport and stay in love with it and stay involved with it. So
What made you want to stay after getting cut and everything?
I think just competitive nature. I grew up in a pretty competitive family with two brothers and parents that played sports. So I think for me, it was more just to kind of prove, hey, I can do this.
Right. So, going into high school, you played volleyball, and what made you want to pursue that in college?
Well, I knew that I wanted to coach, and I got involved even with that in high school, just through co-ops in some of the classes um, that I was able to kind of sit in with and take. But having a fairly competitive family and seeing the success that my older brother was having with athletics, he was professional. He ended up being a professional golfer. Both my brothers did, but he made the decision fairly early on that he was going to go to the States. I'm Canadian, so that he was going to go to the States and try to obtain an athletic scholarship to play golf. So he ended up at Jacksonville University in Florida. And I kind of wanted to follow suit. I knew that I wanted to go play at in a competitive collegiate program, and I knew that I wanted to come south. So ended up at a school in North Carolina.
And after college, you pursued a professional volleyball career, right?
Not really professional. So I played a lot of club volleyball, women's club volleyball, so stayed, and it was highly competitive. They were all former college players. And then they tried to start a pro tour in DC. So we were doing mostly showcase playing. And the way that that worked is there was a group of about 25 to 30 women that still were interested in trying to pursue playing at a high level. And so we had the opportunity to compete at high schools, and they used it as a fundraiser. Like, I think that, if we won that night, if our team won, I think we'd make $50, which paid for gas and food that night, but that's about it. Then through that, I actually was invited to a team that went to Brazil to play in a professional women's tournament. So that was a pretty cool experience, playing with some really high level athletes. And yeah, and that's probably as soon as I had my son, I kind of stopped playing at that level and stopped playing women's stuff and started focusing more on the coaching side of things.
Before you had your son, did you see yourself doing that full time, like competing, or did you still see yourself coaching?
No, I still, and I was coaching at that time anyway. So that was just kind of a side gig to coaching. I was teaching high school. I was coaching high school. I was coaching club. So I was a little bit busy. And then some of that had to take a little bit of a backseat, obviously, when I had him. And then moving to this area, it's just not, there's not as many women that were playing at that level in the area. I found I was going to have to travel to Ohio to be able to do that. So it just wasn't feasible with being a collegiate coach. So,
I
yeah.
remember you a couple weeks ago, you told me a story about how you were in Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Before Clarion.
Yeah. I was at UMBC for 2 years, coaching there. That was my first collegiate coaching experience. My friend and former mentor, Ian Blanchard, had hired me. We had coached club together for several years. And then he hired me his first assistant there. And I'd lived there and I had taught there at Glenelg High School for several years as well. So maybe 7 years in Maryland, I think.
What
Something along.
what ultimately made your decision to come to Clarion from Maryland?
Um, I met a guy and got married and had a child, and that didn't really work out. So, but we co-parent and everything's amazing. And so now I'm still in Clarion and he's in Clarion, and both of our families co-parent our son, and it's great. It's a pretty good experience.
Did you moving to Clarion, you moved here because of the coaching job, or did you decide?
Both coaching job and just trying to move into the area initially. Obviously, I had met my ex-husband at the time, so I was trying to move in the area to be closer to him at that point, and that brought me to Clarion. There was I think 3 jobs open kind of within that span of time that I looked at within the conference, and I was really fortunate that Clarion was willing to take a chance on me.
And how many years have you been coaching for Clarion?
14. They say this place sucks you in,
It's a great town.
Yeah.
Your initial reaction to the town, is it still the same as when you moved here?
Well, yeah. So I think that there's, the university has grown since I've been here. They've definitely made some really great improvements, not only to the athletic facilities, but just to the university in general. But I think when I first got here, I'm fairly adaptable and I've lived a lot of places, so I wasn't completely shocked or anything. But leaving Baltimore area and coming to Clarion, it's a pretty big culture shock.
Oh, I know.
It's pretty small, and obviously the traffic is way better here than in the Baltimore DC area. So there's some advantages, but you definitely have to take a little bit longer drive to get to some of the things that you don't necessarily need, but you want. So, yeah.
Yeah, I made the move from Baltimore to Clarion too.
Yeah.
How did your hobbies switch up when you moved here?
Well, kind of like what you talked about, like I stopped playing volleyball, and honestly, I think I was so busy with having a really young child and having a new house and just trying to start a program. I had some pretty lengthy goals and some big changes that I wanted to make to the program. I took it over, and it wasn't in a bad place when I took it over, but it wasn't where I thought it could be. And so I was just really excited to kind of get started there. So, that turns into recruiting and a lot of it. And so a lot of time on the road and still trying to be a good parent and things like that. So definitely a learning experience.
Were you kind of on your own with it when you came here? Who was your assistant when you initially came here?
I was by myself, so I didn't have an assistant for the first few years, and then they allowed me to have a graduate assistant, and so I had 2 different graduate assistants, and then my current assistant John became a part-time assistant when they flipped that, and he also was a CA on campus just to kind of try to make ends meet. And we did a lot of camps those first few years until he became full-time. I think we were working, between 30 and 40 days of camp a summer on top of our normal jobs. So just so that he could make a little bit of money. But so I don't necessarily, I love camps and I can't wait to get back into them, having a year off, but I don't miss that many days of camp. So
That sort of just took up your summer, sort of just running those camps. Did you feel like those helped your program doing as many camps?
I mean, and like I said, I love camps. I love interacting. I love teaching. I love working with other coaches. But I think too, there's got to be a bit of a balance. And, having been a former collegiate athlete, just how busy things get. And, when you're really trying to build a program and be successful, it takes a lot of energy, and it's a full-time job, and it includes the summer. And so I think, just at the risk of not getting burnout, I think it's really important to be able to have some time to yourself and do the things I like to do, as well, just to rejuvenate before the season starts in August. So.
Right. So first coming here, what was more of stress, being a collegiate athlete or being a coach in a new program?
So I I don't want to say stressful, because it's like, this is what I chose. And I think that if I was bored, I wouldn't be happy. I think I'm better busy. Um, but it's very different. And I don't think I really understood, as a collegiate athlete, and I played 2 sports in college. I don't think I really understood just the amount of time that goes into all the little things. And, even just like preparation for trips and budgeting and recruiting, and just all those other things that I think, as a collegiate athlete, you don't really necessarily see your coach do. And so I think that I got a taste of that, obviously, with my first collegiate coaching job being at the Division I level. You spend your weekend on a plane to go watch an athlete or two compete, and you spend a lot of weekends in the office and a lot of weekends on the road. And so I think, coming in and taking over my own program, I was prepared, but I still just don't think you think of everything. And it can be overwhelming if you don't know how to manage your time.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's something I need to work on, managing my time.
I think everybody could work on that, right? But I think once you can eventually get into like some sort of routine, I feel like COVID hit, and the routine was just out the window, right? You're so used to, I need to do this at this time, and this is when we have to have this ready for the season. And all of a sudden it was just all kind of thrown to the wolves. And so I think that was a good patience builder on my part.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just kind of going with the flow.
So you're a boy mom. How hard? They say being a boy mom is really hard. How is that for you?
Having obviously once been his age, I would much prefer be a boy mom than, I think, karma is a bit of a thing. And I think if I was being put through the hell my parents probably were put through, I think my life would be a lot more stressful. We have our moments, but I think for the most part, we're really lucky. He's a really great kid. And we have a lot of similar interests with respect to athletics and stuff like that. So we can kind of bond over that. And, I think I'm fairly lucky. Knock on wood. he's still young.
Future Clarion wrestler, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's built like one, like he should be a wrestler, but he's more baseball, football, he's in basketball now. So yeah, but he does everything and stays busy, which is nice.
So fast forward, when did you meet Rich?
We met at work. He works as an athletic trainer at the university. And it actually was a situation where we were, through a mutual friend that also worked at the university, we were all just lifting together for quite a while and grew into a friendship. And then, grew into a lot more. And, now I'm lucky he's my husband.
Do you fall in love with him because he's so loud?
Yeah, he's quite a talker. He's pretty quiet.
What do his hobbies look like?
What's that?
What are his hobbies like, Rich's hobbies?
So it's funny you should mention that. He's actually out in the garage right now. He's really into woodworking. So in the last couple of years, he's developed a business and he's done kitchen cabinets, and he wants to get into some other things, kind of cutting boards, some other things. But yeah, he's spent a lot of money on tools, and he spends a lot of time in the garage and a lot of times kind of working up details for his next project. And he's absolutely just in love with what he's doing. So.
Well, that's good. You both kind of seem like you really love what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're pretty lucky, and it's nice too, because it's like he's got his own thing and I've got my own thing. and at the end of the day, we can kind of come together, which is nice. I think it's important.
So 14 years later, do your you feel like your vision sort of your first year is coming to life here in Clarion?
I don't know. I mean, I've had moments where, and I still have moments where I can see it. And I'm having those moments now again. But I think you go through a lot of ebbs and flows as you coach and make a lot of changes, because I think it's just, I like to think that learning is something that I'm passionate about. And I just don't know enough yet. I really don't think that I'm as good as I need to be at times. And kind of always just striving to do better for my girls and to gain more information, to gain an edge. And I think most coaches are. I mean, I hope they are. And you just really want to develop these strong young women that are prepared when they leave here. And I just don't think that I'm quite like, I think I do a good job with some things. I think I fail miserably at others. And so every day is just trying to learn something new. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see. Like you're just so humble, like about everything. Like I think you're an amazing coach, but like you're always talking about you
You've
talk
never been
more
to my gym.
you like talk more about the things you want to learn more than the things that you
Yeah.
know.
I've got a lot to learn, and I've been really, really fortunate that I've been around a lot of really great people that I've been able to learn from. But I just don't think that journey's ever over. And I think that that's when I'll know that it's maybe time to get out, when I'm just not as passionate anymore. But and like I said, I think you go through ebbs and flows. I've had a couple moments here and there where, I've questioned, I'm like, am I doing the right thing? And am I going to be the best person for these young women? And am I going to be the best person for the university? And then these little things happen where it kind of kicks you in the ass and you think, wow, like what a great opportunity. And I just learned something new. I was going through that a little bit a few years ago, right before I had an opportunity to travel abroad with a team and learn from an amazing coach who actually I have to play against constantly in our conference. And just, a week with learning from him and working with him and working with a group of young ladies that weren't all the ladies that are in our gym was such a neat experience. And to do it on in a different country, that I think grew my passion again, that like this is what I need to be doing. So
Right. Do you ever see like your younger self and like one or two of your girls? Like do you ever look at one of your girls and go and see your younger self?
yeah, and it's a little scary. um, yeah, yes, I do. Some of them. And there's certain aspects that I really enjoy, and there's like I said, there's certain aspects that scare me because I didn't always make the best decisions when I was a collegiate athlete. More of just kind of a wild side. Like I never got in major trouble or anything like that. I definitely made some choices that if my girls made now, I would not be happy. But just seeing, we've got a few girls in the gym right now that they've got a grit to them that I really enjoy. And you can kind of see them start to really push and try to grow as a student athlete and just mature. And it's pretty fun to watch. But yeah.
How do you like say you said you made mistakes as a young person. How does like
Don't we all?
yeah, I still am.
Yeah.
How, what do you say a coach should approach an athlete who made the same decision that you made? Like how do you think the best approach to that is?
Well, I think that there's transparency, but there's also accountability, right? So I made quite a few mistakes before I got to college. And my parents had a way of effectively punishing me. We've got quite a few stories when we get back together that tend to come out, and we all laugh about them now, but at the time they weren't so laughable. But ultimately, as many poor decisions and learning opportunities that I had there was always a consequence that came with it. And I think that that's all part of growth. I think that if you think you're going to walk through life without making a ton of mistakes, I think that you're nuts. You know what I mean? I think that's how we learn. And I think that's how we grow as people. And I think you also need to accept the fact that there's going to be consequences that come along with it, whether that makes you happy or not. All learning opportunities, I think. So, and I had plenty of them.
You seem to, I've heard you talk a lot. You talk a lot about living in the moment. Is that something you live by your whole life?
Yeah, I think as I've gotten older, I've kind of mellowed out a little bit, but I was very much game for almost anything. So it wasn't hard to twist my arm for experiences and, like you said, live in the moment, enjoy life, and sometimes that's kind of what got me in trouble. But again, they were learning opportunities, and I look back now, and I can have conversations with my athletes and say, "Hey, look, I did this." I can have a conversation with my son and say, "Hey, look, I did this. Probably not the best option, but do what you want and make your mistakes, and just understand that we're gonna have to live with what comes next." So, yeah.
What would you say the number one lesson you've learned from your athlete specifically
From my athletes,
about yourself?
about myself. Oh boy, that's a really good question. I think over time, I've learned to be more patient. I think that there's certain things I'm not super patient with that I could grow in that area. But I think overall, when it comes down to just loving them as people and seeing that everything's not always black and white, there's always a gray area, and just being able to have those conversations and talk those things through with our athletes, I think that that's been a really good learning opportunity for me. And just to kind of grow together through experiences, and to be able to take that into growing our program, I think has been a really good opportunity for us, or for me.
I've learned from seeing every sport, every coach, I've noticed the difference is patience with the coaches who really have built the program.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. And it's my level of patience is okay with making mistakes and things like that. It's the work ethic stuff that really tries me. And I try to be extremely transparent about that. And, I think if you have a really good work ethic, I think there's going to be a mutual respect back and forth. And that's the one thing I think that really grinds my gears more than anything, is just not being able to work hard. But I also respect the fact that not every athlete that comes in understands what my expectation of working hard is. So there's got to be a little bit of leeway as they figure that out. And I have to be not only transparent, but I've got to explain it in a way that they understand. So part of that is on me as well. But yeah, I think the work ethic part is huge in our program.
Yeah, so it's typically, I would say that it's mainly the younger ones that do that. And how do you explain, how do you approach that conversation with a freshman who just came from probably dominating at their high school to now being at a different level? How do you approach that conversation with your freshmen?
Well, we try to approach it as an entire program and just get them to understand that, our learning lab or our gym is an area where we're going to screw up a lot. But ultimately we've got to learn from the mistakes, and it can get really frustrating when, you were an athlete, when you make the same mistake over and over and over and over and over and over again, but yet there was no learning that happened. How frustrating is that, not only for you, but your coach, but what we do is we try to talk a lot about the way that we talk to ourselves as humans and the way that we respond to errors. And I think that part of the issue with not being able to grow as an athlete is because of all the stuff that's going on here that gets in their way. It's not because they're a bad athlete or they're not listening. It's more just they're so hard on themselves sometimes. And I find that in our sport, I'm dealing with a lot of perfectionists, a lot of girls that really, and haven't been held to a level of accountability where it's like, okay, well, what did we learn here? Well, I've never done that before. Okay, go try it again. and then come back. What did we learn here? Well, I don't know. It's like, okay, well, we've got to grow here. So I think that those are the conversations. And I think we have a lot of those individual conversations. We have a lot of girls that come in for film and we talk through it. I think that's the best place to talk through it one-on-one. But we do our best to try to address our team as a whole and teach lessons every day and get them to respond not only to our feedback, but to their mistakes in a way that will allow them to grow versus get frustrated by it and be stuck in the same cycle for the next 2 or 3 years. That's where things get, really frustrating, I think, for both coach and athlete. So
I've noticed that the best coaches allow their athletes to grow instead of forcing that growth on them.
Yeah.
They'll slowly talk to them.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, they're going to want to get as good as they want to be good. They don't want to fail. They want to start. They want to play. But they've just got to understand that there's a whole lot of sacrifice that comes along with that. And, it's this is the first experience where they've ever had probably a team with 19, 20 people on it and 4 or 5 people in their position. So it's like,
right.
It's like, oh my goodness, like this is overwhelming and I have so much to learn and the game's faster. And, so you kind of got to work through them and kind of have an open door and be transparent, even if it's not always what they want to hear. But
Right.
yeah.
There must be is there a lot of frustration you see within your players? How do you approach that? Say obviously athletes get angry out of spite.
Yeah.
How would you say a coach should approach a situation like that?
Well, it's interesting because when I look at it that way, like I don't walk into our gym and see girls throwing fits or, they're not in tears. Like I'll work at camp sometimes. And as soon as you start giving them feedback, it's like you can see the tears well up. And I've had probably 10 of those girls come through in my 14 years where it's like, you gotta watch kind of how you address, when you address, what their level of frustration is when you address them. Because if they're already frustrated, the last thing that you need to do is just pile it on to them, right? Because they're already beating themselves up. So it's part of it is just recognizing body language, knowing your athlete and just kind of knowing when to walk away and maybe addressing it at a different time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get frustrated, the last thing I need to do is start spouting off at somebody. And I'm getting a little bit better with that. I still think it's sometimes there are moments when as a coach, you get frustrated and the words come out before you start to think. And in those moments, you do your best to try to apologize and say, hey, this wasn't a good moment. And I overstepped and this isn't how I should have addressed it. But, and that's part of taking ownership and growing on my part.
Right. So has Coach John helped you out with that a lot?
Yeah. And not with that part specifically. He's absolutely, he should be paid like triple what he makes for what he does. Yeah, he's grown a lot. So, he came in and had some college experience, but was fairly green with respect to just kind of the ins and outs day to day, the interactions with the athletes, things like that. And his growth has been absolutely phenomenal. And just the work that he does for our program and our strengths kind of mesh. He's really strong at a lot of things that I'm not strong at. And so it really works out with it just being the two of us. We kind of each pull our weight in different areas. And I think it's really beneficial overall for the program and for the girls and their growth and my own personal growth. He's a computer guru. So he knows way more about building databases and all that stuff that building organization. So like the joke is I'll build something or make something and I'm like, okay, take it and make it look pretty. Because I'm like, that's not my strength.
Yeah.
So it's understanding how to delegate stuff that he's really good at that stuff. And he's super organized. He's kind of a go-getter, like he's really self-motivated. So we're really lucky to have him.
Do you think, I noticed that you guys have you guys seem like you're kind of best friends.
Yeah.
You think that relationship sort of translates to your athletes? Because I notice your athletes always treat each other with respect.
Yeah, and it's like John and I have known each other for a long time. We have at this point, you have a lot of inside jokes. A lot of similar movie quotes that our girls don't really understand anymore because no one's ever seen those movies. Um, and so we kind of just laugh at each other because the girls don't laugh at us. So, but yeah, and I think but there's also times when we maybe disagree on things and we have to learn to talk through it. And I think if you can kind of exhibit those relationships in front of the team, I think it's an opportunity for them to learn on how you can work with people in an amicable way.
I've never really seen a team like yours. Like no team I've been a part of, they don't, especially in practice, like they're not talking bad about anyone. They're not arguing.
Yeah.
I think that directly reflects off of what you built.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and part of it is too, like we've been just really lucky through the recruiting process that we've just gotten really good people in our gym. And, every once in a while you get a person here or there that really struggles, but our job is to grow that and to grow a culture of honesty and trust and respect. And we talk about it a lot in our gym. And it's not to say we're perfect because we have moments where we all disagree. We have moments where they fight. They all live together. So of course, they're sharing space often. They go home to each other. And I mean, it's no different than a best friend or a marriage. Like you have to learn to work through differences. And I think being in a team situation is an opportunity to do that. So we spend time talking about what that should be. And we also have an open door. So if they're working through problems as a team, that we can kind of help them through that stuff and hopefully provide some sort of good feedback.
So if I'm like, I notice the Clarion Athletics as a whole kind of has this connection. Do you feel that connection with other coaches? Like, are you close with other coaches too?
I am, yeah. And I feel like if I had to go knock on any coach in the building's door to ask questions, they'd be there in a heartbeat. And I think that's one of the things I love most about this environment that we're at is that everybody wants everybody else to succeed. There's a lot of us that are really close friends outside of just being at work. So we see each other quite a bit. So we're just really fortunate. It's definitely a family type atmosphere. And even the administration, like I know they have my back. I know that I can go. I can text my boss on a weekend and say, hey, what do you think about this? And I know I'm going to get an answer. And it's not run like a business, it's run like a family. And I'm just really appreciative of it. It's probably why I'm still here, right?
I noticed that even when I had Wendy on my podcast, she talked very highly of her, just all the coaches and the relationship that you guys have.
Yeah, she's a rock star. We're really fortunate in the way that she's, built our culture as a program, and she's super transparent too. And she's really solution based, which I think meshes well with the way that I function. It's, hey, this might not be an option now, but let's figure out how to make it work, or let's figure out another solution to this problem. And I love being able to have conversations with her and work through things. I think it's been really good on my own personal growth. And so yeah, I'm really excited about where we're at as a program, where we're at as a department, and as a university. I think we have great leadership as a university as well. So we're pretty lucky.
Yeah, this town as a whole is so awesome.
Yeah. Sweet.
So,
yeah.
Outside of athletics, what does Coach Jen do?
Well, obviously I go see my son play sports as much as possible. So last summer with us being off, I got to see him play baseball a whole lot more than ever. And usually with my schedule, I don't get to see him play as much as I would like to. So it's been really nice in the last year just to be able to see him do his thing. I like to work out a lot. I like to run with my dogs a lot, and I like to spend time with my husband.
Yeah, speaking of that, like you remember when I drove by you, I was pretty close. I remember that I got pretty close to you. I was like, oh gosh, she's gonna hate me forever.
No, it happens all the time, and I have people honk all the time, and I'm like, what is going on? This morning I went out. So we didn't have practice, and I went out for a run. I did about a 3.5 mile run with my husky, and so it was really icy out. So that was probably a bad choice, but I fell on my ass pretty good at one point. So, but yeah, I like to run. I like to lift. I have a really, really amazing group of friends that I like to spend time with. And when we get together, it's always amazing, and really strong women that I like to spend my time with, and just being able to grow with them as well has been really, really a huge advantage. And I think meeting good friends later in life can be difficult for some. So I feel really fortunate that in the past year and a half or so that I've been able to surround myself with some really strong women. Yeah. So yeah.
So, future of Clarion Volleyball, what are your goals looking like?
Well, I mean, I think the ultimate goal is you want to win a national championship.
Right.
And you know, we've had a taste of what the Elite Eight looks like, but I feel so far removed from how long ago that was. And not only do I want to get back there, but there's just some things I think recruiting wise that we've been able to do in the last 2 recruiting classes that I think are going to help us move towards that. I think we've always had talent, but I think just some of the things that we've been able to not only grow as a program, some assistance from the administration, our facilities have changed drastically. There's just a lot of things I think that are allowing us to flash forward a little bit. And you asked about, do you see that vision? And, you know, I'm starting to really wrap my head around what that's going to look like. So it's pretty exciting. I think we have an amazing group of young women in the gym right now that have worked really, really hard for the last year without even competing. So, you know, we're really excited to do that in a couple of weeks just to see where we stand against another team. And, you know, obviously we've got some great athletes joining us in the fall. So I'm just really excited to kind of see it all come together, and we see glimpses here and there, and it's pretty neat.
I can't wait to watch you guys compete again. It's really fun watching a good team just compete and see them come together. It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it comes down to, is just there's a thrill that goes along with seeing them compete and put that jersey on and represent something that's way bigger than themselves. And they're so excited. Like, we've been trying to jersey scrimmage every week since the fall. And it seems like such a little thing, but it's really big for them right now as they're trying to get through the whole COVID thing. And so it's, you know, anything that we can do just to build that excitement for them and keep them happy and keep them excited about training. And they've been working really hard. So I'm pretty stoked.
I'm excited. Coach Jen, you are an elite coach.
No.
I know you want to admit it. You're humble, but I won't be humble for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on my podcast. This is my favorite one yet.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for everything that you're doing for our program. It means a lot, and it's helping our program grow. It's good to surround yourself with good people. So I appreciate you helping our program out.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for always talking to me.
Always. All right.
All right. Yeah.
Have a good one. See you later.
Bye.